Tonight, when I opened the mail, I found a postcard from a title company. Glossy, cheerful, completely wrong for the way my stomach dropped. It said, "Congratulations on your completed transfer." There was a little house icon in the corner, like a child's drawing, and underneath it, a line that made my vision blur. Property address: 1147 Alder Ridge Lane. My house, our house, the house I had painted myself, one slow Saturday at a time, while my husband, Nolan Pierce, worked late and promised he'd make it up to me. The house where our son, Owen, learned to ride a bike in the driveway. The house where I kept spare blankets in the hall closet because I liked knowing I could make anyone comfortable if they showed up cold and tired. And now a title company was congratulating me on a transfer I hadn't agreed to, hadn't signed, hadn't even heard about. I read it again, then again, waiting for my brain to catch up, for some rational explanation to land like a lifeline. Maybe it was spam. Maybe it was meant for someone else. Maybe the address was similar. But it wasn't. 1147 Alder Ridge Lane was the only address that still felt like a real place to me after the divorce paperwork started piling up on the kitchen counter. It was the only thing Nolan and I still shared that didn't come with a bitter conversation and a deadline. My hands went numb. I walked to the kitchen, set the postcard down beside Owen's cereal bowl, and stared at it like it might change if I stared long enough. Then my phone buzzed. A calendar reminder: mediation tomorrow, 9 a.m. I felt the air tighten around my ribs. Mediation, settlement, numbers, fair division. Nolan's favorite phrase lately. He'd been calm, too calm. Like the end of our marriage was a spreadsheet he could tidy up with neat columns and a final signature. I flipped the postcard over. On the back, there was a tracking number and a contact name: Escrow Officer Marlene R. I didn't hesitate. I called. A recorded voice thanked me for calling. Soft music played, the kind of music designed to make people patient. I wasn't patient. When a woman finally answered, her tone was bright and practiced. "This is Marlene." "My name is Harper Pierce," I said, forcing the words out steadily. "I got a postcard about a transfer for 1147 Alder Ridge Lane. I didn't authorize anything. I need to know what this is." There was a pause, a click of keys. "One moment," she said. I listened to her type. I heard her breath shift, and then her voice changed, just slightly, like she'd stepped onto thinner ice. "Mrs. Pierce," she said carefully, "our records show the deed was recorded last week. The property was transferred from Nolan Pierce and Harper Pierce, husband and wife, to Alder Ridge Family Trust." My knees actually softened. I grabbed the back of a chair. "A trust," I repeated. "I don't have a trust. It's listed as the grantee," she said. "The notarized deed was executed and recorded. I'm seeing your signature on file?" "No," I said. "No, that's not possible. I didn't sign anything." Marlene hesitated. "Ma'am, I can email you the recorded deed for your review." "Yes," I said, "right now." I gave her my email. I hung up. I stared at my phone like it was a live wire. The email arrived within minutes. Subject line: recorded deed, 1147 Alder Ridge Lane. Attached PDF. I opened it. There it was in black and white. A quitclaim deed. Grantors: Nolan Pierce and Harper Pierce. Grantee: Alder Ridge Family Trust. Dated, stamped, recorded, and my signature, my name, looping across the bottom as if I had calmly agreed to give away the roof over my son's head. But the signature didn't feel like mine. It looked like someone had tried to imitate the shape of my name without understanding its rhythm. The H was too stiff. The final R had a sharp hook I never used. My throat closed. I scrolled to the notary block. A stamp, a commission number, a name. Notary, Deanna Colfax. The acknowledgement date was the same week Nolan had told me he was traveling for a client meeting. I sat down hard at the table. The room felt too bright. Owen's cartoon played in the living room, cheerful voices rising and falling, unaware that my entire life had just tilted. This is the legal truth that hit me like cold water. The anchor that made everything else suddenly make sense. Your name on a deed is not just ink. A recorded deed can change ownership. It can affect your rights, your equity, your ability to refinance, sell, even stay. And if someone recorded a deed with your forged signature, it wasn't a misunderstanding. It was fraud. Worse. If Nolan had transferred the property to a trust, he might be trying to hide it from the divorce court, from creditors, from me. And if a judge believed I had consented, I could lose leverage before I even knew a fight existed. I called my attorney, Sophia Bennett, and left a message so rushed I could barely form words. Then I called again and again. When she finally answered, I said, "Nolan transferred the house. There's a recorded deed. My signature is on it, but it's not mine." Sophia went quiet, not shocked, focused. "Email it to me," she said. "Do not confront him. Do not mention it in writing. And Harper, check your credit right now. If he did this, he may have done more." The word more hit like a warning siren. I pulled up my credit monitoring account. One Nolan had insisted we share for safety, back when marriage still meant teamwork. I logged in and scanned the alerts. There it was. A hard inquiry from a private lender and a new account line, home equity line of credit. Opened 12 days ago. Secured. Secured by my house. I tasted bile. Sophia called back within 10 minutes. "I'm filing an emergency motion," she said. "We're asking the court for a temporary restraining order and a lis pendens." A what? "A lis pendens is a notice filed in the property records," she said. "It tells the world there's litigation involving that property. It can stop a sale or refinance because any buyer or lender will see the dispute." My hands shook. "Can we undo it?" "We can challenge it," she said. "But first we freeze the bleeding. Then we prove it's fraudulent." The next morning, mediation turned into something else entirely. Nolan arrived wearing a light gray suit and a patient smile, like he was stepping into a board meeting. He hugged Owen in the hallway, kissed his forehead, and told him, "I'll see you after school, buddy," with the ease of a man who believed he owned every room he walked into. Then he sat across from me at the conference table and slid a settlement offer forward. "I think this is fair," he said softly. I didn't touch the paper. Sophia leaned in and said, "We need to address the deed transfer recorded last week." Nolan blinked once, then his smile returned, smaller. "What deed transfer?" Sophia placed the printed quitclaim deed on the table. Nolan's eyes flicked down. He didn't flinch. He didn't look surprised. He looked annoyed, like we'd noticed the magician's sleeve. "That," he said, "is administrative. It's for estate planning. Doesn't change anything. It changes ownership," Sophia said, "and Harper's signature appears on it. She did not sign it." Nolan's gaze finally met mine. "Harper," he said, voice gentle. "You did sign it. You just don't remember because you were stressed." My nails dug into my palm. "I didn't sign it." He sighed. "A performance." "This is what I mean," he said to the mediator. She panics. She forgets conversations. She spirals. Sophia's voice sharpened. We're filing emergency relief. If you claim she signed, you can provide the meeting notes, the notary's logbook, and the circumstances of execution. Nolan leaned back. Fine, he said. We'll provide whatever you want, but I'm not entertaining theatrics. The mediator cleared her throat, uncomfortable. She looked at Sophia. Is this something that could be handled outside mediation? Sophia didn't blink. Not if the house is being used as collateral for undisclosed loans. Nolan's jaw tightened. What loans? Sophia slid the credit report alert across. For the first time, Nolan's calm cracked. Not fully, just a thin fracture. That's not what you think, he said quickly. My voice came out low. Then what is it, Nolan? He stared at me like I was being unreasonable for wanting to know if my home was being used like a credit card. Business cash flow, he said. Temporary. Secured by my house, I said. He lifted a hand. Our house. No, I whispered. Not anymore, apparently. Mediation collapsed. Sophia walked us out. Nolan's attorney muttered about overreaction and miscommunication. But that afternoon, Sophia filed a lease pendants and a motion for temporary orders. She requested the court freeze transfers, freeze encumbrances, and order Nolan to provide all documents related to the trust, the deed, and the HELOC. While Sophia worked, I did what every scared person does. I started digging. I found the old file folder Nolan used to keep in the top drawer, back when he still pretended we shared paperwork. I pulled out our purchase documents, our mortgage statements, our insurance policy. In the back was a notary acknowledgement sheet from 3 years ago, a packet Nolan had signed for a refinance. The notary name was different, the stamp number different. So why Deanna Colfax now? I searched her name online. It took less than 5 minutes to find a notary listing. I clicked. Deanna Colfax, commission expiration date, last year. But the deed was notarized last week. My breath caught. Sophia, I said when she answered. The notary commission on the deed looks expired. There was a pause. Then her voice went colder. Screenshot it, she said. Send me the link. That's significant. The escalation began to feel like a staircase I couldn't see the top of. Every piece of information wasn't a relief, as it was another door opening into a darker hallway. That night, Nolan texted me like nothing had happened. We should keep the civil for Owen. My hands hovered over the screen. I could have typed 100 things. I typed none. Sophia warned me, don't tip him off. So I smiled at Owen, made dinner, packed a lunch, and pretended the ground under our house wasn't being shuffled around by a man I once trusted with everything. 3 days later, the court granted a temporary restraining order prohibiting Nolan from selling, refinancing, or further transferring the property pending a hearing. The Ellis pendants was recorded. The house, at least, couldn't quietly disappear while I slept. The day after the restraining order, I thought I would finally be able to breathe. But breathing became its own kind of work. Nolan didn't call. He didn't apologize. He simply switched tactics again, moving through the places where I wasn't looking yet. My homeowner's insurance agent emailed me to confirm the updated named insured. Updated. Like a casual word could erase me. I called, voice tight, and the agent sounded confused. We received a request to remove you, she said. It came from Mr. Pierce. Remove me from the policy that protected the house I slept in. I drove to the agent's office with Owen's booster seat still in the back. I brought the court order. The agent copied it, eyes wide, and promised to reinstate me immediately. But the message was clear. Another system Nolan had tried to control. Sophia told me to request a full title report. When it came, it showed something I hadn't expected. A second recording filed the same day as the deed. A trust certificate, listing Nolan as trustee and giving him power to act without beneficiary consent. It was designed for speed, for unilateral control. I drove to the county recorder's office and asked, politely, to see the images on file. The clerk slid the screen toward me. My signature stared back from the deed, and I forced myself to look at it like evidence, not like betrayal. I asked for certified copies. I asked for the exact timestamp. I asked for the recording submitter information. The clerk hesitated. It was e-recorded, she said, submitted through an online portal. By who? I asked. She pointed to a code and a company name I didn't recognize, a document preparation service. That night, I searched the service. It was a small outfit with a bland website and a phone number that went to voicemail. I left a message. I didn't mention Nolan. I simply said, I need to verify an authorization. They called back the next morning. A man with a weary voice said, "We only process what we're given. We don't verify signatures." "So anyone can upload a forged deed and you'll record it?" I asked. "We assume it's valid," he said, defensive. "That's how e-recording works." I hung up and sat in my car for a full minute, realizing the modern world had made betrayal efficient. Then a neighbor texted me, casual as weather. "Saw Nolan here last week with a woman in a briefcase. They took photos of the porch." I stared at the message until the letters blurred. Photos meant intent. Listing photos, appraisal photos, proof photos. I forwarded it to Sophia. She wrote back, "Good. Keep documenting." It wasn't comfort, but it was direction. And direction, in a fight like this, was the difference between panic and power. I opened a note and logged every call, letter, name, and time, without exception, daily. But Nolan didn't stop. He escalated in the way smart men escalate, through systems. I got a letter from my mortgage servicer stating the mailing address had been changed. Not to Nolan's apartment, not to his office, to a P.O. box. Then a second letter came. A courtesy notice about an upcoming escrow analysis sent to the same P.O. box. He was redirecting the paper trail. He was trying to be the only one who saw the warnings. Sophia filed an additional motion. "Restore all mailing addresses to me and prohibit unilateral account changes." The judge granted it. Nolan responded by filing his own motion. He asked for exclusive use of the marital home for stability. He claimed Owen needed consistent access and that I was volatile. He attached a declaration that painted me as emotional, forgetful, unreliable. He didn't mention the deed. He didn't mention the trust. He didn't mention the HELOC. He tried to make me the story. So no one looked at his paperwork. Sophia prepared for the hearing like a general. She subpoenaed Deanna Colfax. She subpoenaed the lender. She subpoenaed the title company. Lionel, a forensic document examiner Sophia hired, asked me for handwriting samples. I gave him old checks, birthday cards, signatures on school forms. He studied them, then studied the deed signature. "This is simulated," he said. "It's an imitation, not yours." The phrase felt both validating and terrifying, because if it wasn't mine, someone had put my name on a document that could uproot my life. The hearing took place on a rainy Tuesday, the kind of rain that makes the courthouse steps slick and the air smell like wet stone. Nolan sat with his attorney, posture perfect, expression calm. He smiled at the bailiff. He nodded at the judge like they were colleagues. Judge Mina Hart entered and looked tired in the way judges look when they've seen too many people destroy each other over money and pride. Sophia stood. Your Honor, we are here because Mr. Pierce recorded a quitclaim deed transferring the marital residence into a trust without Mrs. Pierce's knowledge or consent. Her signature was forged, and the notary commission appears expired. Nolan's attorney stood immediately. Objection to characterization. Mrs. Pierce signed willingly. She's now regretting it. Judge Hart looked at Nolan. Mr. Pierce, she said, did your wife sign this deed in your presence? Nolan didn't hesitate. Yes, Your Honor. My skin went cold. When? The judge asked. In my office, he said. We met with a notary. Harper understood. Sophia's voice cut in. We have evidence the notary's commission expired prior to the notarization date. The judge's eyes narrowed. We'll hear from the notary. Deanna Colfax didn't appear. Her subpoena response stated she was unavailable due to health issues and requested rescheduling. Sophia didn't blink. She held up a printed web page. Your Honor, we pulled the Secretary of State's records. Her commission expired last year. She could not lawfully notarize this deed last week. Nolan's jaw tightened. Maybe it was renewed, he said quickly. Sophia shook her head. We verified. It was not. Judge Hart leaned forward. Mr. Pierce, why would you use a notary with an expired commission? Nolan's calm thinned. I didn't know it was expired. And you didn't think to check, the judge said, voice flat, when transferring title to the marital residence during active divorce proceedings. Nolan looked offended. It was estate planning, he insisted, for our son. Sophia's tone stayed steady. Then why was a HELOC opened 12 days ago, secured by the residence, with proceeds wired to an account Mrs. Pierce did not know existed? Nolan's attorney objected. The judge allowed it. Nolan's eyes flashed. Business, he said. Short term. Judge Hart's gaze was sharp. Short term or not, it's marital property. You had an obligation to disclose. Nolan's attorney pivoted. Your Honor, even if the trust exists, the beneficial interest remains marital. Judge Hart raised a hand. We are not at final distribution. We are at temporary orders and alleged fraud. I want facts. She ordered Nolan to provide, within 7 days, the trust document, all bank records for the HELOC, and proof of notarization validity. She set a follow-up hearing and warned Nolan that noncompliance could result in sanctions. Outside the courtroom, Nolan's smile was gone. In the hallway, he hissed, You're trying to destroy me. I looked at him and heard myself say quietly, You did this. He stepped closer. You don't understand, he said. If that house stays in your name, I'm exposed. Exposed. The word hung there, heavy. Exposed to what? I asked. His eyes flicked away. Nothing, he snapped. Just stop. That night, Sophia called me after reviewing the lender documents. Her voice was tight. Harper, the HELOC proceeds didn't just go to business cash flow. They went to a settlement account for a lawsuit. A lawsuit? Yes, she said. Against Nolan, a former partner. He's being sued for breach of contract and fraud. The air left my lungs. He never told me. He didn't want you to know, Sophia said, because he used the house as collateral to fund his defense and payoff discussions. My hands started shaking again. So he transferred the house to a trust and opened a HELOC to shield it and still borrow against it? Sophia exhaled. That's what it looks like, And the trust, it isn't even a family trust in the way you'd think. What do you mean? It lists Nolan as trustee, she said. But the beneficiary isn't Owen. It's a separate entity. My heartbeat climbed. What entity? Sophia paused. A company. Pierce Harbor Holdings, LLC. LLC. A cold, familiar syllable in my mind. A box. A shield. A place money can hide and reappear with a different face. I felt sick. So the house is in a trust that benefits his LLC? Yes, Sophia said. And that LLC is managed by someone else. Who? Sophia's voice lowered. His mother. I sat down on my bed, staring at Owen's nightlight glowing softly in the hallway. Nolan's mother, Diane Pierce, had always been polite to me in the way polished women are polite when they're measuring your worth. She'd called the house an asset instead of a home. She'd asked how much we paid, how much we owed, what the appreciation looked like, as if she was checking a stock price. Now she was in the paperwork. Sophia moved fast. She filed a motion to join necessary parties and asked the court to compel Diane Pierce's deposition as a non-party with control over an entity receiving marital property benefits. She requested an expanded restraining order. Nolan responded by turning up the pressure on the only thing he knew could make me flinch, Owen. He requested an emergency change to parenting time, claiming Owen was distressed at my house. He claimed I was distracted by litigation. He claimed stability required Owen spend weekdays with him. Sophia's voice was calm when she told me. "This is leverage," she said. "He's trying to make you back off." I stared at the documents. My hands felt like they belonged to someone else. "He's using our child," I whispered. "Yes," Sophia said. "And we're going to show the court that the instability comes from his deception, not your reaction to it." The next escalation came from the title company. Marlene emailed another update. "We have received a request for a second transfer," she wrote, "but due to the recorded LES pendants, we cannot proceed." Second transfer. He'd tried to move it again. Sophia forwarded it to the court. Then Lionel, the document examiner, sent his report. He concluded, with professional certainty, that my signature on the deed was not genuine. He attached side-by-side comparisons and identified tremor patterns consistent with tracing. Sophia added it to our filings. She asked the judge for sanctions and attorney fees. She asked for an order declaring the deed void pending final adjudication. She asked for an order preventing Nolan from using any marital assets to pay for litigation in his separate lawsuit without disclosure. Judge Hart scheduled an evidentiary hearing, and that's when the twist arrived, the big one. The moment where the transfer stopped looking like a divorce tactic and started looking like something much more dangerous. 2 days before the evidentiary hearing, I received a certified letter from the county. My name was on it. So was the house address. Inside was a notice of a pending tax lien, federal, amount, $186,400. Associated taxpayer, Pierce Harbor Holdings, LLC. My vision tunneled. I read it 3 times, certain I was misunderstanding. But the notice was clear. The IRS was asserting a lien against assets associated with the LLC. And because the house had been transferred into a trust benefiting that LLC, the house was now tangled in federal teeth. Nolan hadn't just moved the house to hide it from me. He'd moved it to hide it from the IRS, or to keep it from being taken when the lien hit, or to shift liability away from himself and onto whatever structure he thought would hold. And in the process, he dragged my home into the blast radius. I called Sophia, voice shaking. "There's a tax lien notice, federal. It names the LLC." Sophia was silent for a beat. Then she said, "Okay, this changes everything." "How bad is it?" I asked. "Bad enough that the court will care immediately," she said. "Bad enough that Nolan's estate planning story collapses." That night, I sat at the kitchen table with Owen's homework spread out in front of me like a shield. He asked me to check his spelling words. I smiled. I corrected them. I kissed his head. Inside, I felt like I was holding a house with my bare hands while someone tried to pull it away. The evidentiary hearing was packed. Not with strangers. With stakes. Nolan arrived looking pale but determined, as if he'd rehearsed a version of himself that could survive this. Diane Pierce arrived too, wearing pearls and a tight smile, like court was an inconvenience. Sophia began with the timeline. Marriage, house purchase, divorce filing, deed transfer recorded, HELOC opened, proceeds wired, trust beneficiary listed as LLC managed by Diane, tax lien notice. Then she called the lender representative. Under oath, the rep testified the HELOC application was submitted online from Nolan's IP address. The acknowledgement forms were uploaded as scanned PDFs. The signature blocks included my name. Sophia asked, "Did you ever speak to Mrs. Pierce?" The rep hesitated. "No." "Did you verify her identity in person?" "No." "Did you require her to appear before a notary?" "We required notarized documents," the rep said carefully. "We assumed they were valid." Sophia held up the expired commission record for Deanna Colfax. The rep's eyes darted. "I can't speak to that." Sophia turned to Nolan. "Mr. Pierce," she said, voice steady, "did you submit these documents yourself?" Nolan's attorney objected. The judge overruled. Nolan's jaw worked. "I submitted paperwork," he admitted. "Harper knew." Sophia lifted Lionel's report. "Then explain why a forensic document examiner concluded her signature was traced." Nolan's eyes flashed. "That's opinion," he snapped. Judge Hart's voice cut through. "It's expert analysis. Answer." Nolan swallowed. "I don't know," he said. "Maybe she's trying to make it look fake." My heart pounded. It was grotesque, hearing him suggest I forge my own signature, that I somehow manufactured my own victimhood. Sophia didn't react. She simply called Lionel. Lionel explained in calm detail how genuine signatures vary naturally, while trace signatures show unnatural pauses and tremors. He explained why the deed signature matched a simulated pattern. Then Sophia called the county records clerk, who testified the deed was recorded as presented. No additional verification. Then she called Diane Pierce. Diane took the stand with practiced composure. Sophia asked, "Mrs. Pierce, are you the manager of Pierce Harbor Holdings, LLC?" Diane smiled. "I assist my son." "Are you the beneficiary of the Alderidge Family Trust?" Diane's smile tightened. "The trust exists for family reasons." Sophia's tone stayed soft. "Is Owen the beneficiary?" Diane hesitated. "Eventually." "Is he the beneficiary now?" Diane glanced at Nolan. Nolan stared forward. Diane said, "The trust is structured to protect assets." "From whom?" Sophia asked. Diane's composure cracked just slightly. "From threats." Sophia held up the tax lien notice. "Like this?" she asked. Diane's eyes flicked and her face tightened. Judge Hart leaned forward. "Mrs. Pierce," she said, "are you aware of this tax lien against the LLC?" Diane swallowed. "We're addressing it." "You're addressing it by transferring the marital home into a trust connected to that LLC," the judge said, voice sharp, "without the spouse's consent." Diane's pearl necklace gleamed under the courtroom lights. She looked at me for the first time, not as a daughter-in-law, but as an obstacle. Sophia finished and sat. Nolan's attorney tried to rebuild the story. He claimed estate planning. He claimed misunderstanding. He claimed I was overreacting. Judge Hart didn't seem interested in stories anymore. She looked at Nolan. "Mr. Pierce," she said slowly, "the court finds credible evidence that Mrs. Pierce's signature was forged on a recorded deed. The court finds credible evidence that you attempted to encumber marital property without disclosure and to transfer title during pending proceedings. The court also finds this transfer is connected to an entity facing federal tax enforcement." Nolan's shoulders stiffened. Judge Hart continued, "This is not a minor dispute. This is potentially criminal conduct. This court will not permit manipulation of title records to gain advantage." She ordered the deed transfer, voided pending final judgment, and directed immediate corrective filing. She ordered the HELOC frozen and prohibited further draws. She ordered Nolan to pay temporary support and to cover Owen's expenses without offset. She ordered Nolan to pay my attorney fees and forensic costs. She referred the matter of forged signatures and improper notarization for investigation through appropriate channels, and she expanded the restraining order to include all entities connected to Nolan and Diane, including Pierce Harbor Holdings, LLC. Nolan went pale. Diane's mouth tightened into a hard line. In the hallway afterward, Nolan's attorney tried to speak to Sophia about settlement. Sophia nodded politely and kept walking. Nolan followed me, voice low, desperate. "You don't get it," he said. "If that lien sticks, everything collapses." "Then you shouldn't have put our house in its path," I said. He grabbed my arm, not violent, but familiar, like he still believed he could steer me. "Harper," he said, eyes sharp, "I did this for Owen." I pulled away. "You did it for you?" He flinched as if I'd slapped him. The weeks that followed were ugly and procedural. The county recorded a corrective deed restoring the house to the marital estate. The lender froze the HELOC and launched an internal fraud review. The IRS lien remained, but the house was no longer tied to the LLC trust structure. Sophia negotiated with the lender's legal department to ensure no negative reporting hit my credit while the fraud was investigated. Nolan tried to salvage leverage in the only way he knew, by offering me money to be quiet, a lump sum, a quick settlement, a promise to handle the lien. Sophia's answer was a clean no, because we'd crossed the line where money could fix it. The final hearing on property division came 2 months later. By then, Nolan's separate lawsuit had exploded. His former partner's attorneys subpoenaed the same documents we had. The IRS lien triggered more scrutiny. Nolan's attempts to hide became evidence of intent. In court, Judge Hart reviewed everything again, but this time with finality. She awarded me exclusive ownership of 1,147 Alder Ridge Lane. She ordered Nolan to execute any documents necessary to remove himself from title and to cooperate with refinancing into my name. She assigned Nolan full responsibility for the HELOC fraud fallout and any associated debts, costs, or penalties. She ordered Nolan to indemnify me against any claims tied to Pierce Harbor Holdings, LLC, the trust, or the tax lien. She granted me a greater share of remaining marital assets due to Nolan's concealment and misconduct. And she made it clear on the record that Nolan's conduct had harmed Owen by threatening housing stability. The power reversal was quiet. No dramatic shouting, just a judge speaking truth into a microphone, while Nolan sat there realizing his careful systems couldn't outlast accountability. When it was over, I walked out of the courthouse with Sophia beside me and Owen's backpack in my hand. Owen had a soccer practice that afternoon. Life didn't stop for fraud. It just demanded you protect what matters anyway. At home, I unlocked the front door and paused for a second in the entryway. The house smelled like laundry detergent and the lemon cleaner I used on Saturdays. The walls held the soft scuffs of childhood. The window by the stairs still had a tiny crack in the corner from the day Owen threw a plastic dinosaur too hard. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours, because I fought for it. That evening, Owen sat at the table doing math homework. He looked up and said, "Are we moving?" The question cut straight through me. I crouched beside him. "No," I said softly. "We're staying." His shoulders relaxed like a tiny knot untied. "Okay," he said, and went back to his numbers. I watched him, and something in my chest loosened. Not because I'd won against Nolan, but because the home he tried to weaponize had become the place I proved to myself I could stand. Later, when the house was quiet, I opened my laptop and checked the county records one more time. My name on title, clear, correct, no trust, no surprise transfer. I thought about how Nolan had looked at me in mediation, certain I'd sign whatever he slid across the table, certain I'd stay polite, certain I'd choose peace over truth. But peace built on lies isn't peace. It's a trap with soft lighting. And the thing Nolan never understood, not really, was that I didn't need to be loud to be powerful. I just needed to be awake. Because in the end, the house didn't belong to the person who tried to move it in secret. It belonged to the person who caught the paper trail, followed it, and refused to let her child's safety be negotiated away. I turned off the lights, checked Owen's room, pulled the blanket up to his chin, and stood there for a moment, listening to his steady breathing. Outside, rain tapped the windows softly. Not threatening now, just present, like the world continuing. I closed his door gently and walked back down the hallway, my footsteps quiet on the wood floor. Nolan once thought he could take from me with a signature I never wrote. He transferred the house without telling me, but he also transferred something else without realizing it. He transferred my fear into focus. And that focus, that calm, relentless focus, was the one thing he could never forge.